Here's the scene. Thursday evening. You're sitting at your own kitchen table. The pasta's still warm. Your wife is across from you, laughing about something that happened at work, twirling her fork, tucking her hair behind her ear. Your 6-year-old is at the end of the table drawing horses with a purple crayon. Normal. Beautiful even. Except for the manila envelope in your briefcase by the front door. The one with both signatures on page 11. The one she doesn't know exists. That was my Thursday. My name is Nathan Beckett. And in about 40 minutes, my wife was going to discover that the marriage she thought she was managing, I'd already ended it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back 6 weeks. It started with a voice memo. Diane had this habit. She'd record little notes to herself on her phone. Grocery lists, work reminders, birthday party ideas for Sophie. Sometimes she'd accidentally send them to me instead of saving them. I'd get a 30-second clip of her mumbling about picking up oat milk, and I'd text back a smiley face. October 14th, Tuesday afternoon. I'm at my desk, halfway through a system migration at the healthcare tech firm where I've worked for 9 years, and my phone buzzes. Voice memo from Diane. I almost let it sit. 11 seconds in, I knew it wasn't meant for me. And he just sits there cold. Every night. Same chair. Same silence. He doesn't ask about my day anymore. You actually listen. You actually see me. Nathan hasn't seen me in years. My hand stopped on the mouse. The office sounds went flat. Keyboards, the printer humming, someone's muffled phone call. All of it dropped into this underwater static. 14 seconds more. Her voice softer. Warmer than I'd heard it directed at me in months. I keep thinking about what you said, about two people finding each other when they're supposed to. I think you might be right. 27 seconds. That's how long it takes to unmake 14 years. We'd been together 16 years total. Married 14. Moved to Nashville from Raleigh after I took a position doing systems architecture for a healthcare tech company. East Nashville, a craftsman bungalow on Shelby Avenue, we spent 2 summers fixing up ourselves. I sanded the floors on my hands and knees. She picked every paint color, spent 3 weekends just on the kitchen, held swatches against the cabinets at different times of day to see how the light hit. Sophie came 6 years ago. The night Diane went into labor, I drove 11 miles to St. Thomas Midtown with one hand on the wheel and the other holding hers. She was laughing through contractions because I'd left the hospital bag at home and grabbed the empty diaper bag instead. We laughed about that for years. I build systems that don't break. I find weak points and reinforce them before they fail. That's how my brain works. Diane was marketing director for a boutique design firm downtown. Smart. Magnetic. The kind of woman who walked into a room and people adjusted their posture. I love that about her. Still do, if I'm honest. About 8 months before that voice memo, she started going to what she called growth circles. Weekly meetings at a woman named Vanessa Holt's house in Germantown. A dozen women sitting in a living room, drinking wine, talking about alignment and boundaries and reclaiming the self. Diane came home from the first one glowing. You should hear this woman, Nathan. She just gets it. I was glad. She'd been in a rut. Sophie starting first grade, work plateauing, that quiet flatness that creeps in around year 12 of a marriage. If these meetings gave her something, I was all for it. Then the language started changing. You're not meeting me emotionally. I need someone who holds space. I don't think you understand what real connection feels like. These weren't Diane's words. They were polished, rehearsed. They came out of her mouth like she was reading from a script I'd never been shown. I brought it up once. Gently. Are things okay between us? You seem like you're somewhere else lately. She gave me this patient, exhausted look. Like I was a project she'd outgrown. Not everything is about you, Nathan. I let it go. That was my mistake. I let a lot of things go. After the voice memo, I tried denial. Gave it about 36 hours. Maybe Cole was a co-worker she vented to. Maybe connection meant friendship. Maybe I was reading into a clip that was never supposed to reach me. Then Friday evening, she came home, kissed my cheek, asked what was for dinner. Same smile, same warmth. Like nothing in her world had shifted even a degree. I watched her face while she talked about her day. Watched her laugh at Sophie's drawing. Watched her pour wine and lean against the counter with those same brown eyes and not a single flicker of guilt. That's what scared me. Not the memo. The seamlessness. I sat in my truck in the driveway after she went inside. Engine off. Hands on the steering wheel. 30 minutes. The kitchen light was on. I could see her shadow passing the window. I didn't want to call a lawyer. I wanted to walk back in and ask her, maybe beg her. But I remembered that look, patient, annoyed, like I was exhausting her by existing in my own marriage. She'd deny it. She'd make me feel like the problem. She'd been doing that for months. I picked up the phone, called Craig Mendez. Craig and I went back to NC State. He'd moved to Nashville 3 years after us, set up a family law practice in Germantown. We played poker once a month. He'd handled divorces for 2 guys in our circle. Craig, it's Nathan. I need to see you. Not for poker. Silence on his end. Then, Monday morning. 8 sharp. Bring everything you have. Monday. Craig's office on 5th Avenue. He listened to the voice memo twice without speaking. Leaned back in his chair. How long has this been going on? I don't know. 8 months, maybe. Since the group started. Physical? I don't think so. Does it matter? Craig looked at me. For the filing, yes. For what you're going through right now, no. My hands were doing something strange. Trembling against my knees. Craig noticed. Stopped talking. Just sat there with me. After a full minute, he said, here's what I need you to do. Don't confront her. Don't mention the memo. Don't change a single thing at home. Go back and be the same Nathan she expects. Can you do that? Why? Because right now she thinks she's running this. That's your one advantage. The second she knows you know, she starts moving money, building a narrative, coaching her story. You move first, you move quiet, you move once. I nodded. Systems architecture. Find the weak points. Reinforce before failure. One more thing, Craig said. Who's Vanessa Holt? I told him. The growth circles. The new vocabulary. The woman who'd rewritten my wife's operating system in 8 months. Craig wrote the name down. Underlined it twice. I'm going to look into her. You're not going to like what I find. He was right. What Craig's investigator uncovered in 11 days made that voice memo look like a greeting card. Vanessa Holt ran a coaching practice called Aligned Feminine. Workshops, retreats, one-on-one sessions. Sounded like every other wellness business in Nashville. Except her business partner, co-founder, actually, was a man named Cole Ashford. Stay with me here. Cole wasn't just someone Diane had stumbled into a connection with. He was part of Vanessa's operation. They'd been running the same pattern for 3 years, Nashville, Louisville, up into Cincinnati. Vanessa would embed herself in a woman's life through the group, identify the marriages that were what she called stagnant, and gradually introduce Cole as a spiritual counterpart. A man who understood feminine energy, who really listened. While the wife was falling for Cole's validating and holding space, Vanessa was coaching her to detach from her husband, reclaim independence, redefine boundaries. The language was therapeutic. The intent was surgical. 3 other marriages. Same playbook. Same wreckage. Craig laid the investigator's file on his desk. Business registration documents showing Cole and Vanessa as co-owners. Screenshots from a private coaching forum where Vanessa had written, and I'm not making this up, the resistant husbands are the most profitable. Their wives pay for longer programs. Profitable. That's what my marriage was to them. A revenue line. I thought about 14 years. The house we painted together. Sophie's laugh when I'd carry her on my shoulders through Shelby Park. The way Diane used to fall asleep with her hand on my chest. Then I thought about Cole Ashford reading those same words on a voice memo meant for him. You actually see me. My wife's voice. Warm. For someone else. Nathan, what do you want to do? I want to go home and tell her everything. That's the worst thing you can do right now. I know. I looked at him. Draft the papers. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of my life. Not because of the legal work. Craig handled that with the precision I'd expect. The hard part was going home every night and sitting across from a woman who had no idea I already knew the shape of the ending. First week, I went through the motions. Same Nathan. But something in me had shifted, not by design, just by exhaustion. I had nothing left to perform with. Monday, Diane was on the couch, scrolling her phone. How was your day? Fine. Yours? Good. Vanessa's retreat is next weekend. I think I'm going to go. Sounds nice. I knew the retreat was at Cole's property in Franklin, 30 miles south. I'd seen the address in Craig's file. Tuesday, Sophie drew a family portrait at school. Mommy, Daddy, Sophie, and a dog we don't have. Diane stuck it on the fridge. She's getting so good at faces. I stood behind her and noticed something. Sophie had drawn Diane with a big smile. She'd drawn me with a straight line for a mouth. That night, putting Sophie to bed, she looked up at me with those enormous brown eyes. Daddy, how come you don't smile at Mommy anymore? I pressed my face into her hair so she wouldn't see my eyes. Held her until she fell asleep. Wednesday, I went to the gym after work. Didn't mention it beforehand. Since when do you go to the gym on Wednesdays? She asked when I got back. Since today. She studied me like I was a system she couldn't quite debug. Thursday, her car got a flat in the parking garage downtown. She called me. Can you come help? Call roadside assistance. I'm in a meeting. Silence. Then, carefully. Okay. I sat in the parking lot at work for 15 minutes afterward. Not guilt, something heavier. The sound of confusion in her voice, and the part of me that still wanted to fix everything the way I'd always fixed everything. But I couldn't fix a marriage she'd already handed to someone else. Friday, she suggested date night. That Italian place on 12th? We haven't been in forever. Meeting Craig and the guys for drinks. She set her wine glass down slowly. You're different lately. Am I? Distant. Cold, even. I wanted to say, I learned it from you. I said, just tired. Second week. That's when she started cycling. Monday, ice. She walked past me like I was furniture. No greeting when I came home. No conversation at dinner. Sophie kept looking between us, confused. Tuesday, anger. What is your problem, Nathan? You've been acting like a stranger for 2 weeks. If you have something to say, say it. I don't have anything to say. That's the problem. You never have anything to say? You never had anything to say? No wonder she stopped herself. No wonder you what? Nothing. Forget it. I almost asked. Almost pushed. But Craig's voice was in my head. Be the same, Nathan. Wednesday, the jealousy card. She mentioned a colleague named Trent over dinner. Twice. How funny he was at the team meeting. How he'd noticed her new jacket. I said nothing. Kept eating. She stared at me. You don't even care, do you? About Trent noticing your jacket? Should I? Her jaw tightened. She stood and took her plate to the sink. Didn't speak for the rest of the night. Thursday, the cold shoulder deepened. She slept on the far edge of the bed, practically hanging off the mattress. When I got up for water at 2 in the morning, I found her phone on the kitchen counter, open to a text thread with Vanessa. I didn't read it. I didn't need to. Friday, sudden warmth. She came home with groceries and a bottle of the wine I liked. The one from that vineyard in Leaper's Fork we'd visited on our 5th anniversary. I thought we could have a nice evening. Just us. After Sophie goes to bed. She poured the wine, put on music, sat close to me on the couch, closer than she'd been in months. I could smell her perfume, the one she used to wear before the growth circles replaced it with essential oils. Here's where the story takes a turn I wasn't expecting. I looked at her, really looked, and for about 30 seconds I saw it. A flash of the woman who'd laughed through contractions, who'd spent 3 weekends choosing kitchen paint, who'd once left a sticky note on my laptop that said, I picked the right one. She was still in there, somewhere under the coaching and the scripts and Cole's voice memos. Nathan, she said softly, I miss you. 3 words. And my chest cracked open. I almost told her. I almost said, Diane, I know everything. About Cole. About Vanessa. About the plan. And I don't care about any of it if you'll just be honest with me right now. Almost. Then her phone buzzed on the coffee table. Face down. She glanced at it. Didn't pick it up. But I saw it, the flicker. That half-second calculation behind her eyes. Aren't you going to get that? I said, it's nobody. She said nobody the way she said nothing 2 weeks ago. Smoothly. Without weight. I finished my wine. Went to bed early. The next Tuesday, she made my favorite again, chicken marsala this time. Candles on the table. Phone face up on the counter like an offering. I've been thinking about us, she said. About what actually matters. I've been so caught up in my own head, Nathan. I think I lost sight of what was right in front of me. She reached across and touched my hand. Her fingers were warm. Her eyes were wet. You know that moment when every part of you wants to believe something. Even the part that already knows better? 16 years of knowing this woman, and that voice, that specific voice, it was the Diane I married. Not the coached version. Her. I squeezed her hand. Didn't trust myself to speak. Wednesday morning. 6:15. Couldn't sleep. Diane was still in bed, phone on the nightstand. It lit up. Reflex, I glanced. A text to Cole. Sent at 11:43 the previous night, after I'd fallen asleep. Had to play nice. He's been pulling away, and I think he noticed. V says this is the critical window. A few more weeks. I read it twice. Set the phone down exactly where it was. Made coffee. Drank it by the window while the sun came up over East Nashville. Not peaceful quiet. Something harder than that. That Saturday, she came out to the garage where I was sorting tools. She'd been crying. I could see it in the redness around her eyes, the way she kept pressing her fingers to her cheeks. "Nathan, please look at me." I turned. She stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, and she looked young. Frightened. Like the woman in the hospital laughing about the empty diaper bag. "I don't want to lose you," she said. Her voice cracked on lose. "I feel like I've been sleepwalking for months, and I just woke up and you're further away than you've ever been. I think we need help. Real help. Not Vanessa, just us. A therapist. Whatever it takes." My chest felt like someone was standing on it. Because this sounded different than the Tuesday dinner. The dinner was warm. This was desperate. And desperation is harder to fake. I almost broke. Almost set down the wrench and told her everything. Almost. She went inside. I heard her footsteps down the hall. Then quiet. Then her voice, low, drifting through the open window above the workbench. "I think it worked." He looked like he was about to cry. "Give it a few more days, and I'll bring up couples therapy." V said that's the reset button. Buys us another month at least. On the phone. With Vanessa. I set the wrench down very carefully. Walked to the end of the driveway. Stood there looking at the empty street. You want to know what that felt like? Not anger. Not sadness. Something past both. Like discovering the floor you've been standing on was painted over glass the whole time. Then Megan called. Diane's younger sister. We'd always gotten along. She came for Thanksgiving every year, played with Sophie, brought that terrible sweet potato casserole I pretended to love. "Nathan, I need to tell you something, and I need you to not hang up." "I'm listening." Diane sent me screenshots last month. She was asking about property law, how houses get divided in a divorce. She said it was for a friend at work. Quiet. "It wasn't for a friend," I said. "No." Megan's voice was thin. "I've been going back and forth about calling you for 3 weeks. I love my sister. But what she's doing, what that woman Vanessa is telling her to do, Nathan, it's not right." "What is Vanessa telling her to do?" "Secure the house. Open a separate account. Build a case that you're emotionally absent so she gets primary custody of Sophie. It's a playbook, Nathan." Vanessa gave her a timeline. Dates. Steps. Like a project plan. A dog barked somewhere down Shelby Avenue. The afternoon was warm for late October. She's not just pulling away from you. She's being coached on how to take everything while you're still making pasta and reading Sophie the Dragon book. I thanked Megan. My voice was steady. My hands didn't shake this time. Something had finished settling inside me, like a building that's done shifting and is now just standing there, quiet and permanent. That was Wednesday. I signed the papers Thursday morning in Craig's office. Every page. Clean signature. No hesitation. Craig watched me. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." "What about Sophie?" "Sophie is the reason I'm doing this now. Instead of 6 months from now, when Diane's lawyer has a file calling me emotionally unavailable and a judge is deciding where my daughter sleeps." Craig nodded. Thursday evening. At home. Face to face. That's how you do this. 6 weeks of silence. 6 weeks of watching her perform. 6 weeks of sitting across from a woman who thought she was dismantling me while I was quietly building the exit she never saw coming. Thursday evening. The kitchen table. Pasta getting cold. Sophie drawing horses. I waited until she finished her plate. "Hey, sophomore. Go pick out a book. I'll come read to you in 10 minutes. "The dragon one?" "The dragon one. Always." She ran down the hall. Her door closed. Diane smiled at me across the table. "She's completely obsessed with that book." "Diane." Something in my voice. The smile didn't drop, it froze. I walked to the front door. Came back with the envelope. Set it on the table between our plates. She stared at it the way you stare at something that doesn't belong in your house. "What is that?" "Open it." She pulled the papers out. I watched her eyes track down the first page. The second. Back to the first, as if reading it again would rearrange the words. Her face went white. Not red, white. "Nathan, what is this?" "Exactly what it looks like." "You can't be serious." Page 11. I already signed. She flipped to it. Stared at the ink. "Why?" Barely a whisper. "Why would you do this without even talking to me?" "Talking to you." I let that sit for a moment. Like talking about Cole. The name landed like a glass breaking on tile. "Cole is, it's not what you." "Friends." "I know. Vanessa coached you to call it that." I kept my voice level. "Quiet. The way you state facts, not accusations." "Cole is Vanessa's business partner, Diane. Co-founder of Aligned Feminine. They've been running this on marriages for 3 years. Nashville, Louisville, Cincinnati. You're not his spiritual connection. You're a client. Her lips parted. Nothing came out. I've heard the voice memo. The one you sent me by accident in October. I know about the coaching sessions. I know about the property research you asked Megan to help with. And I know that last Saturday in the garage, when you stood there crying, telling me you didn't want to lose me, you called Vanessa 10 minutes later and told her it worked. Each sentence landed like a separate door closing. I watched her face try to calculate which lie covered which piece of what I knew and come up empty. Megan told you. Not a question. Megan has a conscience. Silence. Then tears. The real kind. The ugly kind. With shaking shoulders and air that wouldn't come right. Nathan, please. Sit down. Let me explain. Vanessa gets inside your head. She makes everything sound logical. She makes you feel like your marriage is the problem you need to escape from. She didn't hold a gun to your head. She gave you permission to do what you were already leaning toward. That's not fair. You called my patience a flaw. To a man you met in a living room in Germantown. You rehearsed lines to use on me. You made me believe I was the problem for 8 months while someone else was dismantling our family for a coaching fee. Her face twisted. The tears dried. And there it was, the flash of anger she'd been keeping behind the performance. You want to talk about fair? You went to a lawyer. Behind my back. You had someone investigate me. You sat across from me for 6 weeks knowing everything, and you said nothing. Yes. That's cruel, Nathan. No. Cruel is crying in a garage, and then calling your coach to say the crying worked. That's cruel. What I did was careful. There's a difference. She stared at me. The anger drained. Something worse replaced it. A kind of nakedness. Raw and frightened and very, very young. It started real, she said quietly. The feelings. For Cole. I know how it sounds now. But at the time, Nathan, you were just gone. You came home, and you sat in your chair, and you disappeared into your screens, and I felt like I was living with a roommate. Vanessa made me feel seen. Cole made me feel heard. And I know it was a lie. I can see that now. But I was so lonely in this house that a lie felt better than the silence. I stood there, listening. Not because I owed her the audience, because I needed to hear it. All of it. I wasn't trying to destroy us, she whispered. I was trying to feel alive. By planning to take the house in custody of our daughter. She flinched. That was Vanessa's. It was your signature on the screenshots Megan showed me. Your questions. Your timeline. She pressed her hands flat against the table. Her wedding ring clicked against the wood. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I don't need you to say anything. I stood up. You wanted a deeper connection. I'm giving you all the space you need to find it. Nathan, please. She grabbed my wrist. Don't do this. We can fix this. I'll cut off Vanessa. I'll never speak to Cole again. We'll go to therapy. Real therapy. I'll do whatever. Stay with him. I already signed the divorce. Her hand dropped. She sat perfectly still. The kitchen was so quiet I could hear the clock above the stove. This has to be a joke, she whispered. I picked up Sophie's dragon book from the counter where she'd left it. It's not. I walked down the hall to read my daughter her story. Sophie fell asleep at the part where the dragon finally learns to fly. I sat on the edge of her bed for a long time, watching her breathe, listening to the silence from the kitchen below. No yelling. No footsteps. Just a woman sitting alone with divorce papers and the sound of everything she'd engineered arriving all at once. By Sunday, I was in a furnished apartment on Eastland Avenue. Craig handled the proceedings, clean, precise, minimal points of failure. Vanessa's pattern came out during the process. 2 of the other husbands had already filed complaints. Aligned Feminine closed within 4 months. 4 months later, Saturday morning, Sophie's weekend with me. We're making pancakes. Her job is blueberries. My job is not burning them. Diane picks her up at noon. She stands in my doorway. Thinner, quieter, something behind her eyes that wasn't there before. Not performance. Not strategy. Just the weight of understanding arriving late. She talks about you constantly, Diane said. The pancakes. The dragon book. She says you do the voices now. I do the voices now. She looked past me at the apartment. Small. Clean. Sophie's drawing taped to the fridge. Family portrait. Just me and her and the imaginary dog. I keep thinking about that Thursday, she said. The envelope on the table. I thought you'd fight. Yell. Beg. Something. I know. Why didn't you? Because I spent 8 months fighting for someone who was already leaving. I just stopped before you did. She nodded slowly, like she was still learning the weight of that sentence. Sophie ran up with her backpack. Mommy, Daddy put extra blueberries. Diane smiled at her, sad and real. Lucky girl. She took Sophie's hand and walked to the car. At the bottom of the stairs, she turned back. Nathan? Yeah. I'm sorry. 2 words. 8 months too late. But she meant them. I could hear it the way I'd always heard her, underneath the scripts and the coaching and everything Vanessa had stacked on top of who she actually was. I know, I said. She drove away. I stood in the doorway, coffee getting cold in my hand. The morning was quiet, not empty quiet, just quiet. She whispered, this has to be a joke. It wasn't. But the 8 months before it, the voice memos and the coaching and the crying on command and the man who held space while I held everything else, those were the joke. I was just the last one to stop laughing. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.